Madam Chairperson, may I take this opportunity to thank you for giving me this rare honor to deliver my maiden speech to this august House. May I further take this opportunity to most sincerely and heartily thank His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, for the honor and trust and confidence he has bestowed upon me with an opportunity to serve the Zambian people through this august House as a Member of Parliament. Madam Chairperson, this maiden speech today definitely sets the tone for which I will undertake my tour of duty as Member of Parliament in our collective effort to advance the interests of the Zambian people by doing that which will guarantee development reaching the very weakest members of our society. Furthermore, I take this indelible opportunity to thank my party, the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, and the party leadership, led by Honorable Felix Mtati, for their continued magnanimity in appreciating that we live in an era that inevitably requires that political parties forge strategic political partnerships that will guarantee the availability of diverse talents, skills that can be made available to be used to the enhancement of development. And more so, I want to personally thank Honorable Felix Mtati for his selflessness, maturity, and leadership in recognizing that the Republican President, who is a national coach, has a prerogative given to him by the Zambian people to be able to assemble a national team, drawing resources from the different political clubs that exist in this country. To begin with, Madam Chairperson, let me try and attempt to define my role as Member of Parliament and in my perception of my discourse in this National Assembly. Beyond being part of a wing of government that plays an oversight role over other wings of government, I want to believe that we also have an opportunity to set a tone in the country on the kind of conversations that the people have, based on our engagement as members of this august House. Madam Chairperson, as I've indicated out there, my coming to this House and my discourse thereof will be driven by two fundamental ideals and principles. One, the ideal of nationalism. Two, the principle of patriotism. Madam Chairperson, a nationalist, in a layman's language, is one that is radically committed and devoted to preserve the sovereignty of the state, as well as to make sure that in whatever they do and say, they promote unity of that nation. A sense of nation consciousness and exalting one's nation above others. Therefore, expect that in my discourse in this House, we will attempt to ensure that we emerge even stronger as a unitary state anchored on the motto, One Zambia, One Nation. Madam Chairperson, it is important at this particular stage, when there is seemingly some ugly heads emerging that have the potential to divide this country, to realize that the onus lies among ourselves, to redefine ourselves by way of the kind of conversations we have in this House. It should be a conversation that is void of temporal and narrow partisan interests. It should be conversations that are devoid of ethnic considerations. It should be conversations that are void of patronage. It should be conversations that are void of malice and deceit. But instead, the conversations must always have the nation and the people of Zambia in focus. Madam Chairperson, patriotism in a layman's language means that I stand with my country through and through. It means that the interest of this country comes first. It is a commitment that every citizen should have. And that commitment should also entail that we should be ready to subordinate our personal interest, partisan interest, and any other ulterior interest in making sure that the interest of this country is advanced. For as long as there has been history, Madam Chairperson, there has been men and women who were patriots. It saddens me today that patriotism seems not to be the order of the day. The books that I have read, the encounters I've had with leaders, those who are in the forefront in the liberation struggle, is that when they differed on the political platform here in Zambia, of course, which is obvious, however, when they went out of this country, they spoke in unison, with one voice advancing the interests of their country, painting the right image that would generate that rare positive interest from other cooperating partners. They were marketers of their country, regardless of how they felt. Every Zambian needed not to be trained as a diplomat. The mere fact that you are a Zambian, whether you are at an airport or markets, when the name Zambia is mentioned, there was some level of excitement that ignited in the hearts of those Zambians, and they would speak well of their country. But because of the kind of conversations that we, the leaders, particularly some of us in this house are having, we are beginning to develop and encourage a culture where our people, the Zambian people, are not proud to even talk about their country out there. Instead, when Zambia is mentioned, there is always a temptation to speak ill of their country. So I come to this parliament, Madam Chairperson, to say, fellow nationalists, if you are here, fellow patriots, if you are here, can we whip ourselves together and band together and be able to influence and change the conversations that we are having, from the toxic debates that are basically hell-bent on bringing one another down, where it's no longer an issue of an exchange of ideas, indeed an exchange of policy and the sharpening of those policies that will help the country move forward. But it has become a debate that is more confrontational, confronting one another and trying to bring each other down. And we feel that it is a contest to show who is going to win at the end of the day, bringing the other down, instead of being a conversation where ideas compete and the superior idea at that particular time prevails in the interest of moving our country forward. Madam Chairperson, there are issues of governance that I want to comment on. Obviously, governance of a country emanates from the way our politics are conducted. Our country has been gripped with unfortunate devices. For example, I earlier referred to the issue of patriotism. Today, there is a deliberate attempt to demonize our relationship with China and other friends of our country that have interest in this country, and our country equally has interest in those respective countries. Instead of having a conversation on how we can utilize the gifts and talents and skills that Zambia has to go to the negotiating table with, when engaging with these cooperating partners, for Zambia to be able to cut deals for ourselves, good deals for ourselves. Instead, we have begun to actually attempt to sabotage our relationship with these cooperating partners. The approach should not be to demonize China. The approach should be to introspect and look at what it is we are not doing right in making sure that our dealings with China are bringing the necessary dividends that will trickle down to the Zambian people. China has been an all-weather friend. China has a shared history with our country that is undeniable. The impact of that genuine and unwavering friendship cannot be ignored or erased. On the other hand, Madam Chairperson, there is their need for us to introspect in terms of how we relate with other nationals. And deliberately, I make reference to China because, before anything else, Madam Chairperson, China and its population of over 1 billion people in itself is an already existing big market that can absorb any form of product that Zambia and the entire Africa could produce, and guarantee an inflow on foreign exchange to boost our foreign reserves. Speaking in economic brackets, China remains our biggest partner in view of the potential market it has for our various products and the generic exhibitions, ranging from raw materials to diverse consumables. And so, it's not about hating the Chinese. The emphasis instead should be about having a clear and categorical definition of what we want from China. Never should we have in our time a situation where trading licenses are given to foreigners. And I want to appeal to colleagues and honorable members of this House. Collectively, let us help the President of the Republic of Zambia to deliver his vision for the Zambians. All licenses given under local government should be restricted to Zambians. Certain businesses should be left as a preserve for Zambians only. In view of this, Madam Chairperson, it is expected that there exists sound machinery with a systematic collaboration of the Ministry of Commerce and Trade and Industry, Ministry of Home Affairs, Foreign Affairs, and all line ministries responsible for the channel of generating dividends for the country in terms of our interaction with the Chinese. And therefore, Madam Chairperson, there is need for this august House to distinguish between politics and politicking. Politicking is what we say to the gallery. Politics is about sharpening your policies and implementing them. And so we need to differentiate. In this House, we come to make sure that superior policies are implemented. This House is the epicenter of serious business, Madam Chairperson. Like other countries have done, we could restrict trade licensing to only locals, so that even our Chinese counterparts, when they come to interact with us on economic terms. We may trade through active and mutually beneficial engagements with the local people, in this case, the Zambian people. I am of the considered view at this particular point that we need to consider how best we can encourage each other to forge a lasting win-win relationship with them, just like any other sovereign state. Madam Chairperson, I must state, I have been remotely exposed to the deliberation of this House via the good initiative of radio broadcast and television now. And therefore, I can almost hear the sound of Mr. Speaker's voice saying order, order on the left, punctuated with that signature melodious laughter, saying order, order on my right. Therefore, I was left to imagine what Mr. Speaker was talking about until reality dawned on me on the 23rd of November 2018, when I and my colleague, the Member of Parliament for Mangango, were ushered into this august House. Madam Chairperson, I can see what the Speaker meant and what you mean when you say order, order on my left. Indeed, this is the left, and I can see the left. Now I appreciate why you constantly have to say order, order on my left. I can't help it, Madam Chairperson, but to succumb to the temptation of remembering names of great nationalists like Mwanambubotu Anderson Kambera Mazoka. Madam Chairperson, Anderson Kambera Mazoka, may so rest in peace. He, together with his colleagues, started a political organization. And his leadership style, Madam Chairperson, was such that he looked at the country knowing that any political movement that seeks to take office must embrace talents across the country, and that individuals should be convinced based on the ideals they think the country can benefit from, and should be co-opted not because of their tribe, but co-opted based on their competence and availability to serve the Zambian people. The left I see today is different from the left that emerged under the leadership of the late Mr. Anderson Kambera Mazoka. Mr. Speaker, I can only be attempting to refreshen the minds of Zambian people. On your left, Madam Chairperson, there was a cocktail of honorable men and women like the late Honorable Mtonga, Honorable Sakuya Scott, the State Council, Honorable Bob Sichinga, honorable women like Honorable Inonga Mtukwa Wina, now by the grace of God, Vice President of the Republic of Zambia, and leader of government business in this house. Your left, Madam Chairperson, at some point, had a cocktail reflecting the entire Zambia in representation of the motto, One Zambia, One Nation. Unfortunately, Madam Chairperson, I am saddened to see that those values that were the foundation of your left, Madam Chairperson, it is difficult to see them today. I can only but hope in our endeavor here that those vices that seem to be creating an unfortunate circumstances, such will be dealt with forthwith, so that the outlook of future parliaments will mirror the motto, One Zambia, One Nation. And I must state without hesitation that I'm very impressed, Madam Chairperson, and I was very impressed, Madam Chairperson, to see my elder brother, Leonard Senior Counsel Honorable Jack Mwimbo, seated shoulder to shoulder with my former Finance Minister, Honorable Stumbeko Msokotwane, one as leader of opposition in the House, another as whip. Madam Chairperson, the only wish I had is that this should have been a natural phenomenon and not one that is induced because people have cried foul. It should have been a natural phenomenon because of one Zambia.
Order. Let me take advantage of this tea break to guide the honorable nominated member of the House that you are trading a very thin line. And we might just end up debating the persons in this House in the negative. And while you are enjoying your tea, please consult senior members of this House on what you can say and what you cannot say. As the time is 10:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes.